everyone. Today I want to talk about the reasons of why I'm using a midwife instead of an obstetrician. I had originally decided to use an obstetrician because that's what most of my coworkers and my friends did. I came to this decision without much thought, to be honest. Both my parents are doctors. I grew up around the hospital. I would visit them when they're working. I'm a nurse myself, so I've always been around hospitals. So to me, birthing at a hospital is just the thing to do. And also just from TV shows and movies, I feel like when you think of birth, that's kind of just what you think. A woman in a hospital, they have a doctor, they have the nurses, you're in a gown, they have an IV, they have the monitor, and people are telling them, okay, you're dilated, your water's broke, now push your baby out, and you know, scream and all that yada yada stuff. So I've always kind of felt birth was supposed to be that way, and I just assumed that I would use an OB and use the hospital as well. But this scenario really scared me a lot growing up, and I thought childbirth was one of the most terrible, terrifying, just horrible things that could ever happen to a woman. I never understood why anybody want to go through this, and I thought if I just wanted to be a mom, I could adopt, or the thought of childbirth sometime will even prevent me from actually thinking about being a mom because I was so scared. And most of my coworkers, they've used an OB, they've got an epidural, and they told me that it was the best thing that's happened to them and it's pain-free and everything was okay. So naturally, I thought that's what I wanted to do. I've even got a referral set up by my family doctor to see an OB, and I was determined I'm gonna see an OB. I'm gonna have my baby at North York General Hospital and I'm gonna get an epidural. That's what I decided on. But I secretly always wanted a natural water birth. I love the water. I find water very, very soothing, and I just think it would be a really cool experience. And I've kind of wanted to give it a try, but once I found out I was actually pregnant, like, I was way too scared. I was like, no, I can't do it. But David suggested before I make a big commitment to see an OB, I should explore other options. So I looked into midwives, and I'm really, really glad he encouraged me, because once I looked into midwives and just did more research on natural birth, my perspective of birthing changed. When I was in nursing school, we briefly learned about pregnancy and labor, but it was really from a medical perspective. What are some complications that might go wrong? What are the medical interventions that you could do? What are the nursing skills that you need? So starting an IV, applying oxygen, inserting a catheter, helping with vacuum, or forceps birth, what to do in a C-section, blah, 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 blah. But no attention was paid to how women naturally gave birth. So in a sense, it's almost, at least for me, I felt like it was almost like nurses and OBs were only necessary and they're anticipating for something to happen because that's what they're taught to do. But midwives are completely different. Midwives are experts on uncomplicated natural birth. So I've been really lucky in that I have a uncomplicated pregnancy, and that's how I'm able to use a midwife. If there's any complication in your pregnancy, you probably do have to see an OB who's more specialized in those areas. But if your pregnancy is going pretty smoothly and they predict that you're gonna have a smooth birth, then a midwife is a really good alternative. So once I started seeing birth as a natural process and it's just something that women do, it's something that our body is designed to do, I didn't understand why all those interventions are necessary, and I didn't want them. Once I started working in the hospital, I've came to associate a hospital setting with work and stress and just death and illness, which I didn't want to feel that way while I was giving birth. And that's why I decided to use a birthing center instead of going to the hospital with my midwives. Another thing I love about midwives is that you get to form an intimate relationship before your birth. So my coworkers who went with OBs, they told me that even when they set up appointment times, most of the time they had to wait for at least half an hour to an hour, and sometimes even more, just to see their OB for maybe 10-15 minutes. I never had this problem with my midwife. Every time I book an appointment, I'm usually seen within the first 5 minutes. Occasionally, they might be a little late, but no more than like 15-20 minutes. Also, a OB, it's not guaranteed to be there. Your OB is not guaranteed to be there while you give birth. If they're not working, then an on-call OB would be the one to deliver your baby. I really don't like that idea. I want someone that I built a relationship with to be there for me. I mean, even in nursing, they talk about how important is a therapeutic client relationship. So it just doesn't make sense to me that I should be seeing one OB for most of my pregnancy, yet when I give birth, it might be somebody else. My midwives works in teams of 2. They alternate between who's being on call, and they also have a senior midwife student who's always going to be there. So during my prenatal care, every other week I see either Tracy, which is one of my midwife, or Fariba, who is the other one. And then Hillary, the student, she's there all the time. So I know that when I'm going to labor, Hillary, the student, will be there for sure. And depending on whoever is on call, I will either see Tracy or Fariba. That brings a lot of comfort to me because I know that this is someone that I have a relationship with, that I've built a relationship with throughout my pregnancy. And that it's extremely important because I want someone that I'm comfortable with. But not just that, it has to be somebody who understands my values and understands my goals during labor and is able to be supportive of that. I don't want to be going to labor and then kind of have to last minute express, you know, ideally this is what I want. I want someone who already knows and agrees with me and knows what's the best way to support me through that. So during prenatal care, a midwife can order all the standard tests and screening for you, and then while you're giving birth, they're for sure going to be present at your birth. If any complications arises, an OB will take over your midwives. So they will still advocate for you to have the least amount of invasive interventions, and they will take over your care as soon as their scope allows them to. In the very beginning, I saw them once a month. Starting in the second trimester, around halfway through the second trimester, I started seeing them every 2 weeks. And now I see them every week. They also do all standard newborn assessment and care. They will do all the measurements, weighing. They will do APGAR score. They will take blood. They will give vitamin K. And they also do postpartum care in your home. So the very second day after I give birth, they're going to be visiting me at home, and then again in 5 days, and then again in 10 days. And then after that, when the baby is old enough and I'm feeling better, I go to their clinic for checkups. So I actually will be under their postpartum care for up to 2 months. And then after 2 months, if everything is okay, they will discharge me from their care, and then I will get transferred over to my regular family doctor. Because they're experts in natural birth, they're really big on breastfeeding, which I really like, because that's what I believe in as well. Their goal is to make sure your baby will have a good latch before you go home, but if not, they will offer ongoing support. So if you ever wondered about using a midwife, I really encourage you to do your research and just reach out to them because they're really nice. When I was deciding which midwives I should go with, I contacted maybe 3 or 4 different clinics in Toronto, and they all got back to me. They were willing to set up an initial appointment. So in the initial appointment, they just kind of ask you, what are your goals for your pregnancy? Why do you want to use a midwife? And they explain a little bit about their practice and their beliefs. I was very lucky in that the first appointment I went to, I really liked my midwife, and I decided to work with her immediately. But even she was suggesting and encouraging me to reach out and talk to as many midwives as I can to find someone that I'm truly comfortable with, because this is such a special time. This is all about you. It's not about anybody else. You have to find someone that you're comfortable with, and you have to find someone that you know will respect your values and try their best to carry them out. If you have any questions about midwives, especially midwives in Toronto, please comment in the section below and I'll try my best to answer those questions. And if you're an expecting mom, then I wish you all the luck in the world. And don't forget, it's never too late to change your mind. Even if you have an OB, you can always switch and go with a midwife instead. You're never stuck with a health professional. If at any time you feel uncomfortable or they make you feel like they won't be properly supporting you through your labor, then it's really not too late to switch. Bye bye.